What a wild weekend of competition it has been. A crazy 7 days if you truly think about it, all the way from content creators to League of Legends, global phenomenons, and all of the cosplaying we had at the DreamHack convention this past weekend. It was a jam-packed tournament to say the least, with all of our favorite esports in the venue, and not to mention some scuffles to speak about as well. This is Today in Esports on the Global Gaming Network channel, the place where we get to go over everything to do with esports across the entirety of the globe. Here on Today in Esports, as always, my name is Andy. Joined with me is Chris, and again, like I was saying, we had ourselves a crazy weekend, so we gotta jump straight on into it, starting off with Counter-Strike. At IEM Dallas, s1imples was in full-on return, and this is truly the news that has taken the Counter-Strike scene by storm, given the fact that s1imples, in his return, not in a playoff berth, actually outshined every single other match that happened. If s1imples was on screen, everybody in the Counter-Strike tournament was watching. He yielded 700,000 congruent viewers, just himself alone in one of his series. But across the entirety of it, again, if you're unaware, for FaZe, they're going a little bit of a roster shuffle. For s1imples, he is on loan from Na'Vi, and in place for Brokey for this tournament, they were also playing with a last shoe-in of Skulls. And throughout all this different series, their first one that we're going to be taking a look at was against Team Liquid. And candidly speaking, s1imples didn't look bad at all. I mean, he had an 80.8 ADR by the end of the series versus Team Liquid. 38 and 31. It wasn't the greatest start for him or FaZe. They lost 13-10 in both maps, but at least we're starting to see the chain starting to roll just a little bit. Again, playing with a last-minute fill-in, two fill-ins if you're thinking about it for Frozen, Elige, and Kerrigan. It was no easy feat, to say the least, in this opening series versus a Team Liquid roster that has been really tested over the past several months, especially if you go back to what happened at IEM Melbourne. That team was looking pretty darn good. But s1imples definitely gave it his all within this first series. He's definitely known for his AWP skills. Here he is looking for kill number 15 in a 1v1 versus Suey, and, well, just trying to play for the time. 11v7, trying to get the last elimination. Nice little flick, and he will get the clutch. Yeah, the kids definitely still got it. As far as the second series is concerned, this is where we got to see s1imples get a little bit more of the wheel work going for himself. In that second series, he actually went up against BC Game, and throughout the entirety of this series, s1imples actually looked well more in his wheelhouse. This was the coming of the age story for s1imples, looking 18 and cracked again, but he was able to get 39 kills, only 16 deaths, the 99.4 ADR. This was surely a cleanup duty for FaZe and mostly for s1imples. You saw that clutch there at the end of the map one. Nice little three-piece at the end. Slow peeking around corners with the AWP like it's about 5 or so years ago. And in this matchup versus BC Game, it looked good, but it was against a team that was ranked number 56 in the overall Valve ranking. So you expect FaZe to be able to take this series decisively, even given for their last few fill-ins. So wonderful stuff out from FaZe to at least win that series, but towards the end of all of their group play, this is where things unfortunately came to an abrupt halt for FaZe in their entire weekend. Within their last series, they were going up against Team Heroic, and throughout the entirety of the series, s1imples just, well, simply underperformed, pun absolutely intended. It would be putting it nicely to say he underperformed. He went 36 and 48 with only a 62.3 ADR, and honestly, versus Team Heroic, you can put all of the excuses within the file cabinet for FaZe. Last minute fill in, you don't have Brokey. s1imples is now being filled in as well. Elige can only carry so hard. Kerrigan isn't 18 and cracked anymore. It was the worst rating at a 0.85 for s1imples, and again, it just was not good enough to be able to make it all the way towards playoff bracket. But everybody wanted to continue to watch it, and honestly, Counter-Strike at every single DreamHack thus far is always an absolute banger. It was a very fun weekend of games, but still, that is just one team of so many that was competing on the weekend, Chris.
Yes, and we had so many more to go. And well, speaking of that, we had Mongolz versus MOUZ to start off our playoffs. And the crowd, well, they showed their allegiance and who they were excited for. Let's take a look at a clip from that. Well, you got to give it to the cameraman, always making it hype, and I can't imagine what it was like in person there, though. And there you go, boos for MOUZ, cheers for Mongolz, but at the end of the day, we'd have to see who would take that series, and we've seen this series before, MOUZ versus Mongolz. Let's go ahead and jump into that first playoff match here. And again, MOUZ coming out strong, and it would be all of them. As you can see there, they did end up taking the 2-0. They would start off on Inferno. MOUZ would lead 8-4 in this first half, and you know, they're coming out with the Sun Skills, Xerxin 34-34, but the rest of the team backing up 39-80 yards is exactly what you need if you're wanting to lead to the grand finals. On Mongolz side though, 9-10 looked really good, plus 10 on the KD, but again, it is a team game. You have to play all together, and when you're going down 6-0 first, yeah, you bring up a couple back, but at the end of the day, you have to close these out. They're up one round here at the end. They need to look for the 2, but it wouldn't matter. Here it is, MOUZ doing what they do best, getting to those grand finals. We've seen them there before. They're gonna take that first map on Inferno, then it would be on to Nuke after. Here it is, last round. Let's take a look at it. There they are, playing for it. They're going to be able to get the kills, shooting through the smoke, pulling out the pistol at the end. Xerxin again saying coming out clutch. They're going to find the win at the end there on Inferno. Moving on to Nuke. Mongolz would lead though in the first half. They would lead those first 4. They would end 8-4 as well. So again, they're looking a little bit better on the second map, but you have to close it out, and it's something that they haven't been able to do just yet. On to the swap to the CT side for the side of MOUZ, as they would look a lot better there. After that, they would end up winning 13-11, as again we see on the screen, and Mongolz just unfortunately keep falling a step short as they have been throughout the entirety of this year so far. Again, Mongolz bringing it back, and they want to lead themselves to another grand finals, as they have already been to 3 before. This would make number 4 for them. They are on a roll, and again, it is fairly one-sided. MOUZ, great job to them, looking really good. They're gonna get the final win here on this last round, pulling it out. Mongolz, they still have some work to do. It doesn't matter how much the crowd is behind you, it doesn't matter how much they're cheering for you, you have to pull it out so that they can cheer for you when you move to the grand finals, but it wouldn't be today. MOUZ, despite the boos at the very beginning from the crowd going back and forth, is gonna punch their way to the grand finals once again here for the fourth time. As I said, look at those cheers. That's the only cheering that matters at the end there. So great job to them for moving on to their grand finals.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic weekend, ultimately, if you're thinking about it from the Mongolz perspective. You go back to groups, they almost beat Vitality. They just played MOUZ incredibly close as well, and those are your 2 grand finalists. So, I mean, now we go over towards the other side of the playoff bracket, where we did have Falcons going up against Vitality once again. This is slowly becoming El Clasico ever since m0NESY was acquired from G2, and it was a whale of a time. I mean, if you're looking at this plainly, scores aside, Falcons were very close to beating Vitality, but this map number 1 on Dust 2 just was not it. There was once a point in time where Falcons were undeniable on Dust 2, and then, well, Vitality took that streak away from them, saying that Falcons took the Mirage streak away from Vitality, and ever since then, it's all been a little bit of topsy-turvy. ZywOo was able to have a fantastic map number 1 on Dust 2. That's what you would expect from your Opper, of very much so the case for ZywOo, with a 1.28 in that opening map number 1. 50-45 for ZywOo at the end of the series, but map number 2, it went over towards Train, and I think that this is where things got a little bit more wily, especially for Falcons. You know that Kisioke is going to be joining this roster sometime soon, so either TestS or Magix is going to be losing that position surely, so maybe Falcons aren't playing with a certain amount of gusto. Vitality want to test their maps against this roster. You can see the frustration even on the coaching side. So going in towards Train, this is a map that we don't see all too often from Vitality, and maybe this is why. They only put up 6 rounds throughout the entirety of it. Their executes seem lackluster. Their retakes abysmal at certain moments of time, but I would say that Falcons leading 8-4 within that first half and winning 13-6 definitely did set the precedent through it all. m0NESY looked very comfortable on this map number 2, getting his retribution away from that map number 1. Apex looking furious as per usual, just an absolute emoticon when it comes down to an individual. But m0NESY he dropped a 1.81 rating on this map number 2 of Train. He went 22-12, and that's set up for this map number 3, going over towards Inferno. And yeah, look, if Vitality, You can't ask for a better start. I mean, winning 6 straight, Econ coming online, timeouts being thrown to the wind for Falcons. It was not enough for them to be able to bounce on back until that 6th round timeout. And then they answered back. 6-6 was the first half. And then going over towards the second side, this is what I was talking about, so close to actually securing a grand finals against Vitality, trying to deny them that 6th trophy. It ended in a 13-11, very close to forcing overtime in the last few moments. If you are the Falcons, this last little clutch was everything. Magix, the flash comes through. He's expecting the challenge. He's just playing the angle, even aiming too low. And ZywOo almost gets the kill. HP advantage is there. Luckily enough, has the defuse kit, and that'll set up for at least a last round. But it just was not enough. Econ be damned. 1v1 at the end. Magix was able to get the job done. Sticking there with the defuse, knowing he had the time with the kit. m0NESY can't believe it. Everybody on Falcons, coaching staff included, are so hyped. Magix is smiling, something you don't see too often. But here's how the final moments did conclude. m0NESY with the AWP gonna get caught on the CT side, trying to exit. Hutchison and Magix last alive against the full-on execute coming through from Vitality on the A bomb site. 2v1, Hutchison trying to do it all here. IGL against the wind of Vitality in this 1v2. Stun connects. They should know where he's located at, clearing all from the middle of the map. One player closer towards the dugout, and that's where they will die. Apex letting them absolutely have it, and that'll be another grand final secured. Coming through for Vitality, and well, for Falcons, that is another loss to Vitality. Close as it was, a loss nonetheless.
Yes, and it would set us up for our grand finals. And once again, we're seeing MOUZ versus Vitality. We've seen it before. We'll most likely see it again at this point of how they've been playing. But let's go ahead and take a look at how this one played out. Jumping into the grand finals, we would have Vitality once again coming in. Look at this. I love the red carpet. Let's just look at the walkouts here. Such a great job, as you said, done by DreamHack, IEM. Look at this. Walkout's nice. Everyone gets to see. They're coming out. Great job. You have the trophy in the middle, and that is what everyone is playing for, but especially Vitality. They're looking again for another trophy and a dominance performance. MOUZ looking to upset them. First game, though, we would go to Dust 2, and Vitality has been looking good. They would lead the half 7-5, though, coming into this. So again, opening up really strong for them, but it would go into the second half. They would end up winning the pistol, but we would finally see some bounce back from MOUZ at this point. They would finally find about, what, 6 in a row there. This is finally the MOUZ opening up what we want to see from them getting back into the game, but unfortunately it's just not enough. Again, once you give Vitality an inch, they will take a mile. And there we go. They would get the 5 rounds they needed to win, 13-11. And we're just looking at the stats here. ZywOo, once again, just popping off, 89.8 ADR, going positive again, +9 KD. But Jimpat is the only one going positive on MOUZ. And of course, this is kind of where they're falling short a little bit. You have on Vitality, 3 of them going positive, and on the other opposite end, only Jimpat going positive for MOUZ is going to hurt them a little bit. You know, we're taking a look at these rounds here, and Jimpat trying to do his best in the 1v1 versus Apex here. He gets the kill. There it is. They're moving on a little bit of disappointment on the side of Vitality. Of course, there are a little bit laughs there because you're finally getting the wins, but again, it comes down to these last rounds. You have to close it out. You're getting close here. 12-11. You have to finish it off. You get the kill in the back, but it's not going to matter too much as, again, Vitality, they just really know how to close out the games here. And this is exactly what, you know, shows to be the top team. And once they get this one map, they're going to take it for it, though, and trying to play it off. MOUZ getting a couple of kills. It's not going to matter. There it is, popping off once again. Now on to map 2. MOUZ and Vitality would just dominate this first half, though. 10-2 in the first half for Vitality going into Mirage. They're definitely using a lot of that momentum that they had from the Dust 2 map, swinging onto Mirage here, and you would think that they would be able to run away with it, but MOUZ showing why they did make it to the grand finals. They would pull it back a little bit. They would get back a little bit, and they would end up leading to a 13-9 victory for Vitality, but Vitality coming out showing what they need. MOUZ would win 6 in a row in the second half. They get back in the game, but again, we're just looking at the the gun skill here from the side of Vitalities. I would get in the kill on the opening, leaving 1 person left for MOUZ, and unfortunately, when you're up against 4 from Vitality, it's a bit of a tall order. You're going to get 1 here or there, but you can't really get all of them there to start cleaning up the kill. They're going to go ahead and get that there. As I said, this half was just pure domination from the side of Vitality. 10-2 leads for a good first half for them. And then looking at the stats, once again, MOUZ finally picking up a little bit. Torzy and Spinks would go positive on the KD, but again, you would have plus 13 from ZywOo on this map. The other Flames robes were uneven for both of them, but when you're dropping 120.2 ADR, what is the other team supposed to do against you? This is almost a one-man show for ZywOo on this map. He's just going insane on it. There it is, the ending round for this. They're going to go ahead and pick up the win on the second map here. A little bit of life showing from MOUZ. They tried to bring it back as best as they could from that deficit in the first half, but it's just not enough because Vitality is just on this hot streak, and once you give them everything, they will take it. Now they are moving on 2-0 going into match point for the IEM Dallas championship here. And it starts off, it would go into Inferno. Vitality again would lead once again 7-5 in the first half. You give them all this and they're just going to be able to take it from it. You can't really give them these wins, and MOUZ just really haven't been able to find any recipe to take these first half off of Vitality. They're trying to do their best, but unfortunately, you have to win it if you want to win. And Inferno looking a little bit better, but it would be 13-8 for the side of Vitality. As we see here, Spinks trying to drop it off. It would end up going 53-49. ZywOo massive with the 59-35 KD, 100 ADR at the end of the day. But looking on the Inferno map itself, though, Xerxian would end up having 89.3 ADR, and MOUZ would end up having the 74.1. And here we go.
Just want to interrupt.
Finals.
This team are building an empire. Your Intel Extreme Masters Dallas champions, Team Vitality. Apex, a year ago in this arena, on this stage, you had to watch another team lift that trophy, but now, 1 year later with this Vitality, 30 consecutive series, 6 trophies in a row. How sweet does that sound?
Deep in my belief, I will never believe it will happen. It's crazy what's happening. Like 30 wins in a row, 6 trophies in a row. At some point, we said with Robin, what is going on? We have no idea, but thank you, Dallas. Even though you say a lot of Apex, it's pretty funny, so thank you, guys.
One way or another, they're still...
What is going on indeed? Well, let's look at what's going on. Let's take a look at the group brackets here. Starting with Group A, Vitality's run, making it up from the upper corners, beating Legacy, Gamer Legion, Mongolz to get to that playoff spot. And then on the lower end, we would end up seeing the likes of Gamer Legion qualifying for that as well. Now let's take a look at the B side of the bracket. Looking at the B side, where we end up having MOUZ and Falcons there making their way to the qualified. It would be MOUZ beating Falcons for that upper spot, and then Aurora making their way through the lower end to make it as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the playoff bracket itself to see how Vitality got to their 6th trophy here. It would end up being Falcons versus Gamer Legion, Mongolz versus Aurora. Both of them would take the win to end up facing the semifinals as we saw. Vitality, of course, 1-1 over Falcons to make it to the grand finals, and then MOUZ winning the 2-0 versus Mongolz to make it to the grand finals as well. And then just as we saw, Vitality once again perfect against MOUZ and making their way with the 3-0 to that championship, lifting another trophy themselves. Great job for them. As I said, 30 series in a row, 6 trophies. They cannot be stopped. The French are just rolling right along, and right now there is no end in sight for them.
Yeah, I mean, even crowd chants against Apex, you can't break that man's mental. 30 wins is just absurd. No matter the esport that you're talking about, 6 major trophies, regardless of major or not, is just absurd. Beating the competition continuously, we are witnessing history when it comes down to Counter-Strike. But now we're going to be shifting our focus across what, if you were at DreamHack, was quite literally on the other side of the entire venue, was Call of Duty Major 4. And this was one of the greatest majors that we had throughout the entirety of the year. I will be unbiased and truly say that even watching it from the sanctuary of my apartment, it was electric, to say the least. We had just about everything throughout the entirety of this. When it comes down to championship hopes being demolished and being secured, we had so many different things to keep in store. Here is how the bracket did shake up for the entirety of DreamHack Dallas for Major 4. Up in the upper bracket, Heretics versus Rocker. Heretics were that #1 seed. Thieves trying to go back-to-back for their championship virtues, winning Major 3, and then FaZe got top 6. They lost to Cloud9 New York in the Major 4 qualifiers, and then of course OpTic going up against Ultra. If you're familiar, Ultra did play with that last-second fill-in for Mercules at Major 3. They got top 3, and then OpTic then picked them up. Here is how all of the highlights did go down as far as Friday. We have so many different matches to go over and so little time to truly talk about it. Keep in mind, you, for most majors when it comes down to Call of Duty, is a 4-day event. For DreamHack, they slammed it together for 3 days, and we'll try our best to go over just about everything. But there's that winners round 1 matchup for LA Thieves versus Vancouver. They've seen each other countless amounts of times, most recently in that grand finals for Major 3. And the winners finals of that same tournament. Vancouver Surge got close in that winners finals, came up short, didn't win a single map in that grand finals. LA Thieves will continue on in such a way, winning that winners round 1. Toronto Ultra versus OpTic Texas, like I was talking about, Mercules is the hottest rookie on the scene ever since filling in for Beans at Major 3. And this one was really, really fun to watch. Again, OpTic has been finding new strides ever since this acquisition of Mercules. And I gotta say, this pace that this young man is setting is definitely one to be watching out for. Toronto Ultra knocked down to the lower bracket. And then Boston Breach. This was our lower bracket matchup versus Minnesota Rocker. They actually lost, so Boston will be at champs, and they're gonna go out top 12 here. Same could be said for Cloud9 New York. They lost to the Gorilla Mates, and that means that their champs' hopes are also being put to rest. Vegas Falcons are facing Minnesota Rocker, currently for top 6, because Vegas Falcons eliminated the back-to-back second place team of the Vancouver Surge for top 12. Yeah, you heard that right. And then throughout all these highlights, we had so many different watch parties. This was one of the more beautiful parts about DreamHack. You had the Scump OpTic watch party there. Breaking Point was there with her dope check. Zuma was there, as well as Ben Nassim for coffee and COD, as well as the flank. Man, it was just a jam-packed weekend of competition. Atlanta FaZe versus Cloud9 New York is going to be the last little bits of these highlights, and this was a big moment for Atlanta FaZe just to be able to win this one as decisively as possible, given the fact that Cloud9 New York are trying to get the champs. They beat them in the qualifiers, and Atlanta FaZe were able to win that one, continuing on through their winners bracket as well. It was a very jam-packed Friday, let me tell you. But here's how their opening round 1 matches did go down. Only 2 of those series going to map 4, but we'll have the it's bigger than red and green matchup for the upper semis with FaZe versus OpTic. #1 seed Heretics going up against the Major 3 champions of the Thieves for upper semis. And then the lower round 1 matches, as well as we were talking about for the elimination matches, this is how they all went down as well. Rocker versus Boston Breach. Breach out at top 12. They will be back at champs. Rocker will continue on after going up against Falcons after they eliminated Vancouver Surge top 12. Keep in mind, Vegas Falcons were playing with nothing to lose because they won't even be at champs. We'll see them at EWC. Surge, we will see at champs. They got some explaining to do. LA Gorilla Mates, same conversation for the Vegas Falcons, eliminating Cloud9 from Major 4 in their hopes to be able to make champs run as well. And then the Carolina Royal Ravens, again, going up against the Toronto Ultra. Very tough lower round 1 matchup, but they're going to be at champs as well, and thus being said, they will also be eliminated from Major 4. So going over towards Saturday, so many more clips just to be going over, as we did have all of those semifinal matches. 4 more elimination matchups as well. Cannot believe that we were able to jam-pack all this Call of Duty on into it. Beans was back into prime form. He was up and roaring. A lot of these dead calls were certainly felt, but it was only up against Los Angeles Gorilla Mates. That's a team that's not even being a chance, so I don't even know how confident you can feel about that one, Benjamin Beans. But Miami Heretics versus the LA Thieves, this was probably one of the biggest talking points from Saturday for a multitude of reasons, mostly being from on the opposite side. Envoy has gone on podcasts and said, if I played like Super baiting my team, I'd be dropping a 1.6. And you saw what it meant for Super. Double birds. Cannot believe that Miami Heretics were able to upset the Los Angeles Thieves in that upper semifinal matchup. But then OpTic Texas versus Atlanta FaZe, this was a masterclass. A BZ on Rewind Hardpoint is a real problem. He took Dashy hostage not once, but twice. OpTic Texas continuously tried to fight throughout the entirety of this. Mercury's in control. It's definitely a fun one to watch, but Atlanta FaZe will go up against Miami Heretics in that winners finals. Down low though, Minnesota Rocker, their destiny in their hands. They had to beat OpTic Texas to maybe try to make it to champs in place of either OpTic or Boston, depending on how those head-to-heads ended up working out, but was not the case at all. So Minnesota Rocker, they'll be eliminated. OpTic Texas, they'll continue on throughout the entirety of this tournament after Minnesota was eliminated. And the Los Angeles Thieves versus the Toronto Ultra, this was the last series of the evening, and candidly speaking, it was a banger conclusion. So LA Thieves were able to win 3-1 there at the end. They'll be going on to face OpTic Texas in the next losers matchup.
You talk trash, and they let them know. Oh, my words. Talk trash about the challengers, wrong about that. Talk trash about the kid, and they let them know.
And that clip was immediately after that said matchup, like I was talking about, after LA Thieves beat OpTic Texas. After all of these lower round 2 matchups, that's exactly where that clip did go down. So Rocker in a map 5, because of course it's Minnesota. They beat the Vegas Falcons up in the upper semis though. Heretics, they bested Thieves, and that's where that little clip did go down, kind of setting the precedent for the entirety of the tournament. FaZe beating OpTic, setting up the lower quarters and the subsequent lower semifinals. OpTic versus Rocker, you saw there in the clips. Rocker eliminated not only from champs contention, but also Major 4. LA Thieves beating Ultra, this time for top 4, excuse me, instead of top 3. And then that means that green versus red again, but OpTic versus LA Thieves in the lower semifinal matchup. And you go back to that clip again, it really did set up to how much business needed to be played here on the Championship Sunday. But big shout out to OpTic Texas, even losing on that Championship Sunday matchup. That is the first time that they had placed anywhere better than top 8 the entirety of the season, which means that the LA Thieves, they'll go over towards lower finals after winning the lower semifinals against OpTic Texas 3-1, setting up winners finals in between the Miami Heretics versus Atlanta FaZe. Miami Heretics are the number 1 seed going in towards this tournament. Atlanta FaZe, they're the number 1 team in the game coming in towards this tournament. Given that they placed top 6 at Major 3, they still won EWC last year, Major 1, Major 2. We do not forget in the house of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Starting off on map number 1, Hacienda, and this one was certainly going to be an interesting one. Hardpoint for FaZe has constantly been a real boon of failure, and I think that for this, just being in the best of 5 map set really does say something that they were ready to square up against the Miami Heretics. Rancor, Metals, man, were they ever so beaming. So competitive here towards the end of the second set of hardpoint. Just a 20-second difference in between the two. Rancor currently on a 4 spree, going back down over towards P1. They're trying to turn this into scrap from initial time. So Atlanta FaZe trying to battle for the upper hallway control as patient as can be, trying to play for trades. Metals will be able to find 2, and that set up the snowball from P4, P1, all the way towards the end of this final set of hardpoints for this final last second. Keep in mind, you Miami, they had about a 70-point lead. The fact that they just needed 1 second, and Atlanta FaZe, they do the caster trope of playing perfect hardpoint from here on out, really does say a lot about the grit and tenacity for Atlanta FaZe, but Miami are still going to be able to take that map number 1. Going in towards map number 2, Red Card Search and Destroy really did, or Protocol Search and Destroy, excuse me, really did feel like that this should be a very more comfortable place for Atlanta FaZe, but was not the case at all. Not early on. I mean, a 6-4 start out of Rancor. Simp, though, with the RCXD. it definitely felt like that he was going to be picking up where Abizi was not able to produce. Again, Abizi being 3-7 for Search and Destroy is very unheard of, but nonetheless, it was Simp that was picking things up. 10-4 is absolutely ridiculous, no matter which way that you spin it, but really something that you can rally behind if you are Atlanta FaZe, and that's exactly what they were able to do here in this map number 2. Draza, Simp, last alive down here in this 2v2, trying to get the bomb or at least planted for Simp. 3v1 for Rancor. Only so much he can do for map point. Already gave away the red dot on the mini map, and thus he will die. Setting up map point there for Atlanta FaZe, who inevitably will go on to win that Search and Destroy. Here is the final round, number 10, and the 2v3 that subsequently followed as well. So last alive, Simp versus Metals. Why would you not want Simp to be last alive, ending things on a 4 spree? 14-4, fist bumps, defuse coming through. Atlanta FaZe now got the whole series up, tied up 1 apiece. Map number 3, Hacienda Control. In Control, Hacienda, this is a map mode combination that the Tiny Terrors, Abizi, and Simp, they actually won a world championship on back in BO4, so it may not have played a factor here, but something you always got to keep in mind. Starting off, at least on the offense, was Atlanta FaZe. And you can see in the lives column, if you win the opening breakoff as decisive as Atlanta FaZe did, you will probably win the offense if you can stall off the clock. Up 2-0. Last-ditch defense. Miami need to hold on. They win the opening breakoff. They got the 7-life lead, and thus Atlanta FaZe need to throw caution to the wind, desperation trying to step onto the control zone, and it was going to be at least fish in a barrel for Miami just to swarm in the upper hallways. Atlanta FaZe were fighting valiantly, but Miami just needed one more wipe. There comes the 3-for-1 in the feed. Simp last alive dead, and that means that Miami were going to be able to hold on, force at least a round number 4. And this is going to be at least the last round because Miami needed to force a round 4 offense just to force a round 5 in this map number 3. And Atlanta FaZe, much like in the opening round, won the opening breakoff so decisively. Just about a 10-life lead here with about 10 seconds left on the clock. You can tell by the camera in my voice, not really good odds statistically for Miami to be able to convert this offense. And down low inside of the Shark Take offense, Abizi sliding through doorways, getting a whole bunch of kills. It's a 2-1 lead now for the Miami Heretics. Going over towards this final map of Rewind Hardpoint, this is where Atlanta FaZe were able to really cement themselves as probably the best Rewind Hardpoint team on the weekend, albeit a fantastic start. Look at the KD ratio for Super, 15-9 for the start. It's only a 30-point lead. Do not let Atlanta FaZe build out at least a quarter of an inch. They will turn it into a whole-on Walmart size of a lead. 5 spree now for Abizi, 6 spree counting on up. He's the last alive for Atlanta FaZe, and he already has a Hellstorm missile. That's a big piece of utility. Make sure you remember how that one will be panning out towards the end. These two teams in Hardpoint play each other incredibly close, but at the end, it was the latter 3 that Atlanta FaZe were able to win to best Miami Heretics in the winners finals, and it was really all thanks to Abizi. He had a terrible map number 2, but almost 11,000 damage across 4 maps for an SMG of Ape's caliber, and having a stinker of a map 2, basically getting backpacked by Simp in that map number 2 really does say everything. Super only went -1 as far as KD ratio is concerned, but still a really good spot to be in, standing up, fist bumps all around. It's business as usual in their championship red for FaZe, who now secure 3 out of 4 grand finals on the Black Ops 6 year. So going back towards the bracket now, FaZe, you'll see here 3-1 over Miami, with Abizi being able to lead the way as far as hardpoint is concerned. 1.46 for Abe in the hardpoints being played is absolutely insane. Down to the lower bracket. Now we got the rematch. LA Thieves going up against the Miami Heretics. And you remember that clip that got played. We got hands, we got birds, we got some Call of Duty to be played. And again, when these two teams play up against each other, you feel like that it is always going to be sparks being flown. Again, between these two teams, Envoy on podcast for LA Thieves has come out and said that, well, Super, he's just baiting his team, and if he played like that, he would drop a 1.6. Well, if they just beat you in that upper semifinal matchup to put you here, and now LA Thieves got to put their money or their super team where their mouth is, I suppose, to make sure everybody is reminded that they are the Major 3 champion. Coming in towards this one, some maps were going to be replayed from that upper semifinal matchup, but LA Thieves, they had the knowledge from the day before when they lost to this lot on that upper semifinal matchup. It only took 3 maps. The fact that it went map 5 and as was crazy as it was the last time they played in the same event and it only went down to 3 is absurd. But this map number 1 on Vault for Miami historically, even before Super got brought into the team, has constantly always gone down to time. And Real and Rancor, you saw that opening moment for P2, a lot of the reason why, but even towards the end, multiple sprees happening for LA Thieves throughout the entirety of this. Once you build a lead on Vault, it almost becomes insurmountable as you have to almost full hold on P4 from the front and just to try to break all of these spawns. That's exactly what LA Thieves were able to do. Scrap screaming dead at the monitor. It's business, baby. Map number 2, red card search and destroy. And this one, well, Envoy has been putting on a masterclass, realistically all career. But if you want to really put a magnifying glass on it, this season on top of this series, that 1v3 to win round number 1, he stood up, started chirping at the Spanish roster, making sure they knew that Dylan Envoy was here to play 5-2 through 3 rounds worth of play. Top plat control for Rancor, 1v1 versus Scrap. Look at that game clock, 15 seconds. You need 7.5 seconds to defuse the bomb. Rancor's aware, he's throwing shoulder. You're too far away from the bomb now, Ernie, to be able to get the defuse. Scrap may get the kill, but it's a round win for Miami Heretics. They're gonna tie things up 2 apiece in that 1v3. Big moments out from the potential Rookie of the Year of Rancor. Envoy was back to their old diabolical work right here. Hydra, Scrap, last alive, just leaves Envoy now in this 1v odd situation. 1v2, finds the first, he gets the info sliding back through the soccer goal, and he is just playing with his food. Much like how we said earlier, Rancor knows timings. Envoy's been doing it longer. Super will find the kill, but does not have enough time to defuse the bomb. And now LA Thieves are up on map point. It is currently not looking good for Miami Heretics. Not enough Vamos in the venue as LA Thieves will call map number 2 by just hold on sprinting through Ticket through the middle of the map, flipping the entirety of it. Rancor just trying to get a chow. He's just gonna get run at. Double chow, slide all the way through. LA Thieves are now going to be leading 2-0 in this lower finals. Where have the Miami Heretics gone? Into Vault control, and honestly speaking, if you haven't watched the show all for the Black Ops 6 season or none of Call of Duty this entire year, LA Thieves are the #1 control team in the game. If you go down 0-2 to them, the likelihood of you losing 0-3 is a higher percentage of Lysol killing germs. So losing that round number 1, not exactly the worst case for LA Thieves, but still Miami came out absolutely swinging. That was the only round that they were able to win. Strap yourselves in because LA Thieves were playing pissed off. Scrap was able to find 2 to at least bounce themselves back in towards that contest. 10v7, 7.5 seconds left on the clock, and much like Hacienda, Miami put themselves in a barrel, and much like the fish that they were, Envoy up top was able to find 2. LA Thieves sent them back to spawn packing, and now they tie themselves up 1 apiece in this control, and that was the continuation. Body shots as well, 4 dead in the feed. It was a commanding opening salvo for LA Thieves within that round, and they were able to win that one as decisive as the opening breakoff would suggest. And the subsequent win as well. This was a JV 3-0 in the control, and they were adding the extra pepper, salt, paprika, add more seasoning to it. I don't even care. There were so many bullets going into the dead bodies at the end for Miami Heretics here at the end of the Vault control that they're going to be thinking about it all the way till they get to Kitchener for champs. And at the end of these last few moments, watch this pan out. 20v9, body shots being thrown. Envoy, everybody stepping up. They're letting them absolutely have it, and they walked over and then continued the chirping soon afterwards as well. It was business going into it. And shout out Super for keeping it really cool, calm, and collective there. He knew he got bopped in that match. But Hydra, Envoy, Scrap, they're letting them know about it. At least good guy Dan Ghosty came over at the end and was like, hey man, GG's. But so at the end for the bracket, Thieves will win against Heretics 3-0, and they're gonna go up to face against the other red team, Atlanta FaZe, in a best-of-7. Now, funnily enough, the last time these two teams faced against each other in Black Ops 6 on local area network, that's what LAN stands for, by the way, was all the way back in Madrid for Major 1, where it went Map 7, Round 11, and it was the same thing for the winners finals as well. We are back to our roots, although we did get a qualifier matchup between these two teams. I want to say that it was actually Major 4, and Atlanta FaZe were able to win 3-0 or 3-1. I don't know. This one was an absolute banger. Strap yourselves in because this one was surely one for the ages. Starting off on red card hardpoint, again, when it comes down to these two teams, LA Thieves are typically going to be the better control team, maybe the better respawn team, but Atlanta FaZe has always had a leg up going back to that best of 7 in the search and destroys. That's obviously how they were able to win at the end. 6th spree here for Celium. He has been leading the entire season for Black Ops 6 of overall KD ratio. That guy is an absolute nuisance on the map to kill. 7th spree will finally be put to rest, and well, 7th spree be damned. LA Thieves were playing really, really good fundamental hardpoint, and even on that map 1 pick, they're gonna have a 1-0 lead. Going into the rewind search and destroy for the map number 2, you would think maybe you were gonna get a little bit more warmed up now if you are FaZe, but Simp throughout all of this was nowhere to be found. Within this first couple rounds, LA Thieves had so many perfect retakes. 4v4 retakes, scrap on the defuse. They cleared everything, so you know that the last player is going to be coming through from Jenny's. Wonderfully dissected there. It took Simp so long to become online that by the time that he did, Atlanta FaZe were so off track. The fact that they kept this as close as it did, all the way towards a round number 10, really does tip your cap to what I was saying earlier in that winners finals matchup on protocol search and destroy. Simp picked up where Abizi fell off, but what happens when both the Tiny Terrors aren't putting on carrying pants, or at least one leg of those pants? You need either Draza or Celium to pick things up. At LA Thieves, they were playing really good just Call of Duty in general for those first 2 maps and setting ourselves up for the protocol control. Remember what I said, if you go down 0-2 to LA Thieves, they are the number 1 control team in the game, but Atlanta FaZe are from the winners bracket side, so they get the pleasure to at least veto one of, I guess, LA Thieves' better control maps and forcing out the protocol. This is actually their weaker of their 3 control maps for LA Thieves, and Atlanta FaZe were more than aware of that. Throughout the entirety of this, we had offenses being traded. LA Thieves able to win the opening offense, forcing Atlanta FaZe's hand to try to do the same. And well, wouldn't you know it, they were able to do so. Abizi, even at the end, able to answer back with a quick 2-piece to answer with an offense. LA Thieves, though, brought things back to a standardized viewing experience. Defensive rounds being won, offensive rounds being converted is not an average thing to happen on protocol. But when Abe's turning up like this, yeah, things get thrown a little bit more of a topsy-turvy. We had 4 offensive rounds being converted on protocol control. I want to say it's the first time all season long. Was set up Atlanta FaZe for that round 5 defense, which meant that they got themselves on the board. Going in towards a Skyline hardpoint, finally Atlanta FaZe had some life within the grand finals. And Skyline hardpoint throughout all of Major 3, including Major 3 for the championship, they got top 6. This was their hard veto, so surely they were working on this throughout all of Major 4, and yeah, clearly they were. Simp was able to go on a 4 spree early here, playing around top P2, able to read that the last hit was coming through from Kitchen upon this P2 rotation, and it really did kind of spell an early lead for Atlanta FaZe, although Simp was going to be traded initially. It's that same 40-point lead that we currently have going in towards the second set right here, 105-66, and Atlanta FaZe were continuously playing well here on Skyline hardpoint. The AR duo for FaZe was absolutely on fire throughout the entirety of this matchup. I mean, Celium, he always shoots pretty darn straight, but when Draza is also going somewhere near 1.0, dropping a 0.96, you feel like that this team can simply not lose games. The scoreline was incredibly close there at the end. Last second break comes through on P3, and that means that Atlanta FaZe, they go back-to-back maps, and they are really starting to get the ball rolling here in this grand finals. Best of 7 means that we go hardpoint back in towards another search and destroy for a map number 5. This time it would be on red card search and destroy, and well, for Atlanta FaZe, all season long has really been good for them. Celium has a lot of good timings, top window, Simp, Abizi, First Bloods, Kings as they may be, but LA Thieves, they the super team for a reason, and search and destroy has been real good for Dilla Envoy all weekend long. The Hydra started becoming in his bag. 1v1 here at the end, 4 seconds. MC has to plant the bomb. He was not expecting Hydra to rewrap all the way through goal. Hydra thought about shooting his body right there. We will not overlook that. He thought about it for a second. He did not, but still. He thought about it, and I definitely saw it, Paco. You do not get past me. But still, Atlanta FaZe, they needed to get something going here. Again, Search and Destroy in this best of 7 has really not been good for them. I mean, the Rewind Search and Destroy took them real long to come online. In that map number 5, same thing to be said. Only took 9 rounds, and that meant that LA Thieves are now up on championship point. We're about to have a multi-$1,000 game of Hacienda Control. Not like this. It was Control. They set themselves up. A Protocol was a few maps ago. Hacienda is their second best Control map, and LA Thieves, again, I'm gonna keep screaming it to the heavens, are the #1 Control team in the freaking game. They were able to come out in the round 1. Offensive salvo. They won the opening breakoff, and they were able to capture the first zone without even losing a single life. They converted that offense, by the way, and then going in towards the next round, Atlanta FaZe had to do the same. It was a 2v2. They had to touch the zone, and, well, the last few kills do come through. Paco's starting to laugh. Scrap also starting to laugh. They know that they're up on championship point, and they could do it in a 3-0 in a Hacienda Control where Simp and Abizi were able to win a world championship. Not on your DreamHack weekend. LA Thieves were able to win back-to-back Major 3 into Major 4, besting Atlanta FaZe, the team that bested them back at Major 1. They finally silenced some ghosts there that I'm sure have been haunting them since the beginning of the year. LA Thieves, off of this win, are now the #1 team for champs. For the first time in champs of the CDL era, Atlanta FaZe are not the #1 team. Congrats to LAT.
I don't know about any of these MVPs. What we went through this past tournament was an absolute grueler, and I just can't be more proud to play with these guys and win these tournaments, so I appreciate everyone.
This bracket was absolutely insane. You heard right there from Scrap, he don't give a hoot about no MVPs. He's just really proud of the team he's surrounded by, and it only took 6 maps. No map 7, round 11 grueler, LA Thieves. They lost to Heretics in the upper semifinals. They beat them 3-0. They lost to FaZe back at Major 1. They beat them 4-2 in grand finals on land to cement themselves as the #1 team going into champs, which means that everything is set up as far as champs are concerned. Again, for overall standings, when it comes down to it, if you are not within the top 8, you do not make champs. That's why I put a lot of severity on Minnesota Rocker, missing out their chance to best OpTic at Major 4 to potentially make it all the way to champs. Was not going to be the case at all. This is the opening matchups as far as champs will be concerned. That is all happening at the end of June. Looking forward to seeing you all in Kitchener. But when it comes down to it, was not the only thing happening at DreamHack as well. We did have the Challengers Open throughout all the teams competing. Omit, because of course they were able to field a multitude of teams, are able to win out the entirety of the tournament, beating Team Orchid in grand finals. So congratulations to Mamba, Vivid, Mac. They will be playing alongside Craze at EWC from the championship win just this past weekend at DreamHack. But Team Orchid did solidify their amateur finals placing, but they still have to do more at Champions weekend to be able to make it to EWC. So much COD being played throughout the entirety of the weekend, man.
There was, and well, not just COD, but our other shooter, we had CS. We have a lot of shooties going around, and if that makes you want to play 2 of those games, but you realize you don't have the aim to do it like those pros, well, then why don't you check out AIM Labs, our sponsor, and their aim training tools to see how you can get better, maybe end up like Zywoo or end up like LA Thieves, making their way on through a major into champs, looking good. Let's take a look at our sponsor here.
Games are about competition, a way to test our skill and prove we are better. Challenge is in our nature. We need to know what we're capable of. How far can we go? It's a question that drives millions of gamers to push themselves and prove that it's only a matter of sheer will. Ever since first-person shooters came into the esports scene, players have never stopped defying the odds through the most important mechanic of them all: aim. Aim is everything. It's a set of skills that needs to be trained, and this is where science and gaming meet in AIM Labs, the aim trainer that redefines what gaming means, because science doesn't leave anything to chance. Winning is never a matter of luck. Every brief moment of greatness takes constant and unrelenting preparation, and that's exactly what AIM Labs is about. We enable players to thrive and upset the balance. Together, we elevate play.
Nasty still down by 1. That's a huge kill for her. She stays alive as well.
The melee
comes through. The clutch is fisted, and he gets it. Oh my God, Command Station might just do it with 4 seconds left. A historical win for the women of Halo. The first time a woman has won the free-for-all. Command Station makes history and claims the free-for-all finals.
Well, congrats to Command Station for winning that grand finals of the free-for-all. Actually, the free-for-all leading to the grand finals. But again, first female to win the grand finals. What a great job by them. But now let's also, have to shout out to our caster Eli. We could hear him there. Got a little overpowered by the color caster there, but great job casting that. But Halo as well, grand finals at DreamHack as well.
Yeah, no, you gotta love it. But I mean, that's not the only Halo competition that was happening. And DreamHack was just so jam-packed of competitions that we also had the traditional open pool play, as well as to a championship bracket for the Halo Championship Series. And well, this is how things all did pan out. From lower round one, again, that's right, you heard me again. OpTic Gaming found themselves down early in that lower bracket, and they were able to make a Herculean run. They bested so many good teams, including Shopify Rebellion, along the way in that lower bracket semifinal. They bested TSM, the team that knocked them down to the lower bracket, losing in pool play of all things. And then they went up against FaZe Clan in the grand finals. And look, Halo is old school, and I don't just mean that for the average age of the commentating line. Sorry, Eli, but also I mean that as far as the way that they play. It's not just one best of 7 they gotta play; it's 2 best of 7s. And OpTic from the lower bracket mean they gotta win 2 best of 7s. And they were able to do that. They won the first one 4-1. The only map that they lost along the way off of this Aquarius Capture the Flag, which Formal on this map has been nasty at since Halo's inception. He's playing alongside Bound, Legend, and Renegade. You can only imagine how well OpTic are feeling off of that lower matchup, when the only map that was lost for OpTic in that grand final, match number 1, was the Origin Capture the Flag. And well, as far as this Aquarius is concerned, this was the map number 3 in the second grand finals. And yeah, it only took one different flagpole to come through all the way at the end. I want to say that it was an overtime finish, but there were so many esports at the end that I simply cannot remember. There's another flag cap there from Mr. Matt Formal himself. And there's something to be said about this OpTic Gaming squad, man, specifically for Bound and Legend. This is now their 5th championship appearance that they have actually won together. Legend is 7 for 7 in grand finals appearance. Not every single event he's played in has he made it to grand finals, but every single event that Legend he's made it to grand finals, he has won. 100% win rate is crazy. You saw right there the deep breaths out from Formal. Another lower bracket round 1 completion out from OpTic Gaming, and the super team is able to do it again. Formal still doing it after all of these years. Absolutely insanity. Beating TSM, Shopify Rebellion, as well as Envy, Space Station, Complexity, then FaZe Clan, not just once, but twice, is just insane. And throughout all of that lower bracket run, they only dropped 4 maps. 4 maps total dropped throughout the lower bracket run is just not normal at the end of it all. But big congratulations to OpTic, big congratulations to Halo for a banger of a weekend. Big shout out to A-Zone, again, our sponsorship for our EWC Valorant qualifier recap. Starting off, Chris, we got some action to talk about as far as the EMEA is concerned.
We do, and well, we don't know who's going to Toronto, but how about who's going to the EWC? It will be BBL and Carmine Corp, who both defeated Team Liquid actually to get there. So those will be 2 of your other representatives for EMEA.
And on the other side of the pond, of course, big shout out for Pacific, as they were able to complete Pacific and ACL competition. So that'll include PaperX and DRX to join in the likelihoods of the rest of the competition in Riyadh.
And for China, we do have Titan as well as EDG, Edward Gaming, are going to be making it and joining the other 2 representatives China for EWC as well.
over for the Americas. NRG and 100 Thieves may be missing out on Masters Toronto, but they were able to best the competition from Phase 1 into Phase 2, and they're going to be joining G2 as well as Sentinels in Riyadh as the representatives for the Americas for Valorant. This comes in a massive moment for Valorant for a lot of different reasons, especially for the Americas. NRG is starting to show new life. Team Liquid's now missing out on EWC after besting BBL to be able to make their way for Masters Toronto as well. There's storylines happening all over the place. And keep in mind, you throw out all the nerves and trials, tribulations, more buzz phrases for Valorant right now. We don't even know which team is going to be strongest when it comes down to Masters Toronto or for EWC. But I can tell you this much, my butt will be glued to my seat because it'll definitely be a fun one. But it's not the only base competition that we've been having. Again, for the past 7 days, kind of got drowned out as far as DreamHack, or from DreamHack is concerned, I should say. But the Annihilator Cup did go down this past weekend, and throughout all of the past months of competition, Doublelift is gross.
Doublelift is. Let's take a look at some of those clips from Thursday. Starting with Nadeshot. Who doesn't love Nadeshot when watching this? Going against Tyler 1's team here, taking them hostage. Can you imagine that, taking Tyler 1's team hostage? They have no pros on it at all, and they're coming in here. Poor Imru getting taken hostages in the back, then is gonna get eliminated here from this big, scary-looking bunny. Her speed was funny, but then we're coming over here looking at some of the other highlights. Nadeshot, again, Ludwig, they just had no idea what was going on. Taking them hostage again. They're so upset from losing to Scump's team, or Doublelift's team from Scump. Look at here, they're trying to get some of the kills, but here it is. This is the big moment though. Scump though, annihilating them. Annihilator Cup. Just look at this quick round, taking them out. And then here it is. This is the big point, the nuke though. Let's take a look.
Oh, sorry.
I just dropped the nuke on him.
There he is. He dropped the nuke on them.
It really does say something too. Again, with Call of Duty being the last form of competition, you got 3 former Call of Duty pros playing throughout the Annihilator Cup amongst all the content creators. Like, they know the mechanics. They've been playing that game since its launch as well. The hostage stuff is really, really funny. Like, on top of like dropping a nuke in competitive play, you don't see it all too often, but if you're unfamiliar, if you drop a certain amount of kills without dying, I'm pretty sure it's like going 50-0 essentially. If you drop 50-0 in a public match for Call of Duty, you actually get a kill streak that doesn't show up in the game that you could drop a nuke and it completely ends the entirety of the game. But it is a medal that does come through. You saw it from Scump, man. Kings absolutely still got it. The Annihilator Cup was certainly a very fun time. I mean, big shout out to Doublelift. Not only individually, he was able to take a multitude of weeks competition, but then he was also, from a team-based format as well, was able to take the entirety of the competition. Maybe, you know, his league team may be struggling, but he's looking like an absolute gremlin when it comes down to all these different competitions. But the Annihilator Cup, as fun as it was, I just hope we get to see more of that in the future.
LTA North, LEC have both moved into a playoff stage. A couple of the other regions are working their way to the playoffs. But as I said, let's jump into it here. We had our first seed versus our 4th seed for North America facing off FlyQuest versus Shopify Rebellion. And well, this game number 1 was about all you could think what would happen against the number 1 seed versus number 4 seed. Whippo coming out on top. Actually had an insane game on the Orin. Orin, a tank, went 8-1-8. This is just showing how dominant he has been so far in this region as well as on this team. And this team has looked really good. They've had a couple of, you know, where they lost to C9, then they end up beating C9 again for the week prior to get this number 1 seed to face off against Shopify Rebellion, inspired on the Pantheon with the Galio. These 2 global ults just made it so hard for Shopify Rebellion to do anything. On top of that, you have the Orin just, you know, blowing everyone up. Whippo did an NCP walkout, but this leads into game number 2, and it got a little bit dicey here for FlyQuest. We see here they're trying to get back into it. They have a little bit of an early game here, but Shopify ended up bringing it back, and this ended up leading to one of the longest games of the LTA North and LCS in a best of 5 series that only went 3 games. So when they finished in the minimal games, this was a 51-minute game. Shopify came out to play and they said, well, we lost game number 1, but we still want to try to make it in. They come out here, actually do a really amazing job. You see them getting the kills here, using the numbers advantage to get those kills as well on to FlyQuest. But at the end of the day, you have to remember FlyQuest is the number 1 team for a reason. They know how to turn it around. They know how to get back into the game. Here we have a split fight here on the Elder, and this is the big turning point for FlyQuest in this game. They are able to get the kills while Whippo was able to keep Fudge in the top. They're able to get that Elder. It takes them a little more longer. They actually have to get a second Elder before coming into this, but they end up getting the win. It is now 2-0 in FlyQuest's favor. Look, Whippo having the look of it saying, oh, well, it wasn't really too much. Yeah, it was a long game, buddy. We had to sit through all that, and we know you did too. But into game number 3, again, it would be another game where Shopify Rebellion would have a really good early and mid game, and this time it was all on Whippo. Without this Renekton, I really think they would have lost. He comes in here just absolutely amazing, is able to zone off everyone. We look at how much damage he's doing, how much time he's giving his team. This allows MOUZ to finally come up and clean up kills on the Lucian. And again, every time he's able to find these good flanks with the Renekton calling. He comes out there, is able to do so much damage with them, stable to stay alive the whole entire time. This time he jumps on B-Boy. B-Boy doesn't have a flash, already used the feathers, can't get out, gets killed, and there it is, allows the rest of the team to clean up, and then they are finally able to get the objectives. They're able this time to get that Elder Soul, move on, and take this game number 3. Whippo on that Renekton would end up going 7, 2, and 10. Absolutely massive, allowing Quad to, get some kills as well. They're chasing them out, but the rest of the team finishes the game here. This allows FlyQuest to get that 3-0 over Shopify Rebellion. Shopify Rebellion didn't look too good in their game previously, but looked a little bit better in this one, so we'll have to see how they fare as they are moved to the lower bracket. But let's move on to the game everybody was most likely looking for NA, and it was that C9 versus TL game, and we did have UG actually starting this game as well. But this time he is facing up against a true top 4 team, and look at this, Blabber helping take control. This is what we want to see from the C9 team. They lost against FlyQuest previously to get that 2nd seed, but now everything is on the line. They have to start winning these games, and they came out playing together. Blabber so impactful in this game number 1 on that buy, getting the kills here, using the cease and desist to get the kills. They're going down there, getting the kills. They go into the last fight. Team Liquid trying to do everything they can. Not the highest kill game. We only have 8 kills leading up into the 38 minute. In number 10 coming here, they are able to get a couple more, but it just shows how dominant C9 were across the map. They were playing the macro game really well, able to get the kills where they needed, transition that into map control, and then are able to take this game number 1 off of Team Liquid. So they go up 1-0 pretty easily into game number 2, 13 minutes. We only have 1 kill into this one, and well, we have Team Liquid trying to do what FlyQuest did against Thanatos. You try to catch him out, but remember, this is Thanatos, everyone. If you don't lock him down, if you don't get those kills early, he will snowball into a lead. He's really good at his spacing and able to do a good job here. Once again, flashes into the Baron pit, pulls everyone, makes sure he doesn't get taunted by that Galio. This allows the rest of his team to start getting the 1v1s. We do have Yon jumping over, trying to get on that 1v1 versus Spin. Not gonna be able to win that, dies at this time. Everyone's able to clean up the rest of the kills for the side of C9, and they are looking very dominant against Team Liquid in game number 2. 20 kills to 3, and they're trying to get some of the extra damage, some of the kills. Braum Shield is able to save that, but they'll finish this game with that massive gold lead, and it is a 2-0 in favor of C9. Now we have the change up. Umpty is back in, replacing Yuji in this game. Thanatos previously just got solo killed by Impact in the top lane. He took that personally. Impact, a little greedy for that candy minion, is going to die there, which leads to a double kill for Thanatos on that Gnar, but Team Liquid's going to pull it back, but here it is. Massive play from Blabber, though. It's going to get the Baron steal, and it's going to be able to push out the game a little bit, give them a little more breathing room into this play here. Massive play by Loki, would be able to shoot out Yon on that Zuri, making her ultimate completely useless. It's going to fall off by the time she gets back, and then she runs into a Mega Gnar. The Q comes out, you get hit by the boulder, you're dead. At the same time, Sven on that Senna, which has been looking so good lately across all competitions of play, is able to effectively zone out the Yorick. They're able to get that ace in the end, and it forces them into a kill onto APA a little bit earlier. They go bait out the Baron, force Team Liquid to the fight here, and again, OpTic turns out the lights. It doesn't matter when Anar is in your face as an AD carry. You don't want to see that. No AD carry wants to see that. They're going to get aced here, and this allows C9 to get the 3-0 victory over Team Liquid, and probably what most people would have expected to be a really good series was a pretty dominant performance by C9, and especially after their previous weekend where they ended up playing FlyQuest and got dominated against, it looks a lot better for them. So let's take a look at the bracket here. As we had our upper semifinals there, we had the FlyQuest, of course, being Shopify Building, C9 versus Team Liquid, both of them 3-0, so that will go in 2 weeks. We will see FlyQuest versus C9, and then next week we'll see Dignitas, Liquid, 100 Thieves, and Shopify. So we'll have to see how those play out as it upcomes, but remember, we do have more happening in the LEC, so again, let's jump across the pond and see what's happening in Europe as we had some amazing games, one banger of a series. But first, we'll start off with the G2 versus Fnatic game, and Fnatic number 2 seed versus number 4 seed G2. Well, it didn't look that way at all in this series. We do have Fnatic coming out pretty strong in this first series here. Had a pretty good comp, as we do see, of course, the Vi into the call. You have a lot of good CC to follow up. The Corki doing a lot of good safe damage from a distance as well. They utilize that very well, and this is where we exactly want to see Humanoid Upset having a lot of that damage across the board, especially Upset. Upset has been able to do a really good job for Fnatic in turning games in their favor across the second split so far for them. They're able to get this win. They look really dominant, pretty much how a lot of people expected this to go. 17-6 for the kills in the game, 30-minute game as well. Looks really good for Fnatic, right? Well, G2 has had a really historic good run against Fnatic in the playoffs, and well, that luck helped them out here. So we go into game number 2 here. G2 looks a lot better. They're able to start playing more as a team, and their comp is really synergistic as well. You have a lot of good engaged champs for that Senna to allow her to get the damage off, get those stacks early so she can play into the late game here. We do see the ultimate coming out, helping everybody out there, and then there it is, Caps as well, able to pop off on this Ahri, having such a good game. But look at this Broken Blade play. He comes in a little bit late, but has the Mega Gnar, is gonna shove them all against the wall. This allows his team to clean up, and Broken Blade, just heroic plays there. They're able to end this in the sub 30 minutes, 23-12, a much better looking G2 team. We are tied up 1-1 going into game number 3, and this is where G2 would just take it. The Fnatic, again, having a little bit of an early game, but the team play across the board from G2, look at them just moving all together. They're able to find it, utilizing the high damage comp, putting Broken Blade on that Jax once again. He looks really good coming across it. He's gonna do so much damage here. Look, they try to jump on him. He's gonna pull out the Counter-Strike, take no damage. The rest of the team is able to follow up with him, and then they're able to get these kills onto the rest of Fnatic and clean them up. Again, the drafting has been so much better for G2. They've looked really good, but again, being a little bit behind, they're still able to bring it back. They have a little bit of a later game comp. They have Hansama on the Zyra, and look at so much damage. Look here, there goes out, feathers come out, 1-2 kills. You cannot play any better than that. Just on the edge, 1 health left, but able to pull it out. They're able to bring this game 3 back, able to win it in a really close fashion, and they are up 2-1 in the series versus Fnatic into game number 4. Again, the early game from G2 has been shaky, and it's been a little bit shaky all split long, but it doesn't matter when you're able to clean it up here. There it is, the Pop Blossom coming out, but it's been kind of a bait this whole entire game. There it has Hansama jumping in on the Kaisa again, and they're utilizing the Mbessa as well really well to have her jump in, get the ultimate off. Hansama follows up, then they force out the Pop Blossom, but at that point they have no follow-up. It's just kind of a disengaged tool, and they can't really follow up with the damage, and when that happens, they're able to turn around, get the kill because she's a little bit stunned for the moment after she does it. There it is, a lot of CC off, and then they're able to follow up with the rest of the team. We see it here. Hansama just absolutely popping off on this guy, so looks so good. Triple kill there. They're able to finish this up. They will take this series 3-1 versus Fnatic, and it pushes them on to the upper semifinals, or the upper championship for LEC. And once again, this is a G2 I think everyone's been really looking for, but we still had one more series to go, and this was the big one, KC versus MCoy. And KC, again, was the runner-up in the First Stand tournament, and probably the favorites for the split number 2 as well. And they would come out not swinging. Koi, on the other hand, looked great, and I cannot say how much of a change we've seen them through split 2, how much they have been forming as a team, and we see it here. They get that Hex Soul and they just use that lightning, so many procs with it. They are just able to go win, get all the kills. We see Supa already got like 7-0 on that. Xayah is going to go ahead and clean up everyone as well. Jojo on the Ahri doing great as well, Form 1, and that's exactly what you need to start when you're playing against the #1 team as well as a runner-up in the last international tournament. But again, when you're playing against that team that's so strong, you have to be careful because they know how to come back, and they do a great job here. So here we go. #1 game is going to go ahead and finish off. It is going to be the win for Koi, 23 kills, 2-7 at the end there. Really dominant performance, but KC is able to pull it back in game number 2. Here it is, game number 2. That Akali for Jojo, may have been a little bit of bait for his team, and well, I can't say enough when Kana had his number. Look at this first solo kill on him. Just absolutely annihilates him after landing that ult, and then is able to get out, baits out the Pantheon ultimate afterwards. Again here, there it is. Yike, waiting in the corner. Ult hits Jojo dead after this once again. And then Jojo, unfortunately, is going to bait his team once again. This time it will be Vladdy spotting him out. The wards are there. They know he's sitting in there. They're going to force the Hourglass out ult, and it's not going to matter. He tries to get out with all the dashes. It's going to force that Pop Blossom, and it's a kind of a reverse story we see here. Pop Blossom not doing too much. It's going to bait the team into it. That's a massive shutdown on to the Kai'Sa. They get all the gold. It's able to lead them back into this game here. It was Koi looking great in game number 2, but it was the Kana invested that helped get them back into the game. Godlike at the end, they're able to get game number 2 here. And what can you say? When you have Kana on top form, this team looks so deadly. And we saw it, game number 2, they evened up the series 1-1. Into game number 3 we go. And we will flip sides once again. Koi on the blue side, and they look really good. Dredgeline is going to come out, smack, hits Kana, and forces Kana to jump ult, not able to utilize that. Then we have Jojo on the Talia, is going to hit that knock up. They're going to get the kill there into this fight. This fight was a little back and forth. It showed a really good team fighting from both teams here, but it ultimately would be Koi heading up or getting up with the edge of it on the end of this fight. A massive Victor ult, but it's not going to matter. Look at this, Merwin jumping over the edge, but this is Supa on Senna with 143 stacks. One shot, you're out of here. Now we move on to it once again. Just look at the kiting from Senna that we can see here. Jack trying to get out, is going to hit it. There it is. They have no way to get back onto that Senna there, and they're able to utilize this really well. They have the Hex Soul once again, the lightning procs, you get the slow, Senna's just like, well, give this all to me. Massive ult comes out. Quadra kill for Supa. Supa looking really big this game, having a super game himself. They're going to go ahead and take game number 3. The series is now 2-1 in favor of Koi, and can they finish it out game number 3? Well, as I said, this is going to be a banger of the series, and it is KC we're talking about, so they are able to come back once again. Here it is at game number 4, and it would be KC coming out on top. Jojo again just lost on this Aurora in the middle of the team, but it is going to be Kalist with these massive misfortune ults this game. Bullet time coming out clutch, helping get in a double kill here. And again, let's look at the Kalist on this misfortune. Just knows how to line up every single time. There it is, bullet time again, just pretty much melting the whole entire team. And then Jojo jumping in, trying to use the ult to get in there to get damage, but then just gets killed at the end. Triple kill for Kalist, and it just leads into a massive lead for KC. It's forcing Koi to come out and to do things that they may not want to do, but again, Jojo not having the best game, and it's kind of been the trend that we saw in game number 2 as well. When he gets caught out, then it leads for KC to get these massive leads, allows them to go forward. They're going to go ahead and take game number 4, and it leads us to finally our silver scrapes. This is what we're expecting out of playoffs, and this is what we want to see from both teams. Game number 5 coming out, MKoi versus Carmine Corp. Can the #1 seed do it? No, they can't. It is definitely going to be MKOI coming out this time. The curtain call comes out, but it's just not enough damage. Look at Super, it's going to jump down, not getting hit by the bullet time. It's going to be able to get a lot of damage. Gets that double kill first. We do see the Rift walk out. It's going to come, and they're going to be able to pick up the kill onto Yike, as well as to secure this Drake. Leads over to another kill from here on the opposite end. Super once again on this Tristana, which is having such a great game here. I can't pronounce it enough. It comes out, gets the jump, gets the kill, gets out. Yeah, they shut down the Poppy, but that doesn't matter. Again, we have another kill here, and this would be one of the defining fights. They're going to jump off, get this double kill here for Supa. It leads them into the win. Bye-bye Knock. Let's hear what they had to say as the game was ending here in a moment.
What the f***? It's a better game. No flash on those guys, just hit. Yeah, nice. Good job. Job's not finished. We have tomorrow, and then we go in the side. We go in the side tomorrow.
And as I said, job not finished. They have to go into that upper finals that they're actually facing off against G2 right now. And for that to see who gets the first spot at MSI, as they will automatically move over to that grand finals. But then we're looking at the lower. We have Fnatic versus GX, Carmine Corp versus Heretics. It wasn't great to be one of the top 2 seeds for LEC this weekend, as we see both of them falling into the lower bracket, meaning that G2 and G2 and MKOI will be fighting for that spot at MSI right now, and the possibility of that we don't even see Carmine going to MSI as well. And we'll have to see how the later those fall out, but great job for them. And well, as I said, right now we have MKOI versus G2 playing off. Massive game for them right now. Then the rest of the series going off, we have LCK that will be finishing off their week this week as well before they go into their playoff. LPL's finishing also, and LCP will be having their playoffs starting this week also.
So many different regions, so many different competitions across so many different titles as well. I'm mostly excited for that Cloud9 FlyQuest match. I got that date down, June 7th. Make sure you're seated, because that one should be an absolute banger for LTA North. But you gotta let us know, what did we miss? What was your favorite moment from DreamHack Dallas? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure you like the videos, subscribe, do all of the things, because we got so many cool videos coming your way throughout the entirety of the week, all surrounded by DreamHack Dallas. This was a very fun weekend. We look forward to seeing you again here on the Global Gaming Network channel.